and we have to really escalate the noise we make so that we'll be heard.
Gay USA. I'm Andy Humm.
And I'm Merryn Johns.
Hi, Merryn. It's good to see you. We're going to be together for the next couple of weeks, yes?
Okay. Yes, it's good to be back.
Okay. And it's been a horrible news week in the world. You know what's happened in Turkey and in Syria and in Michigan and things, but we're here to talk about the LGBTQ and AIDS news of the week. Starting with the fact that the new White House Director of Communications is an out gay man.
And speaking of another out gay man, we've got George Santos. He's in trouble again. We've got some out Congress members who are introducing a resolution to expel him from the House amid still more evidence of fraudulent activity.
Speaking of frauds, Ron DeSantis was labeled a groomer by Trump as the Florida governor is brushed back a little on two of his hate-fueled campaigns.
And Iowa and South Dakota move anti-LGBTQ bills, but Michigan's legislature advances LGBTQ rights.
Good. In Brooklyn, a 19-year-old gay man was gunned down, and his mother believes it was a hate crime.
And we have a couple of tragic losses this week. The passings of a leading gay publicist and a leading lesbian couple who led the fight for women with HIV/AIDS.
Yes. The current Prime Minister of Australia will be the first to march in the Sydney Gay and Lesbian Mardi Gras. That's next week, yes?
Yes, World Pride, actually. And the Church of England has voted to bless, but not marry, same-sex couples, and LGBTQ activists are calling it an insult.
And the High Court in increasingly fascist Hungary blocks the new applications from transgender people seeking gender recognition. That's not very nice, but, you know, we start off, it was also, besides all the bad news in the week, it was Super Bowl weekend. And it was very heartening to see Brittany and Sherelle Griner, we have a picture of them, make a rare public appearance. And there it was at the Super Bowl, no less. Just nice to see them there.
I have to say, Brittany looks so well. She just looks good. I mean, when we saw her before in the prison in Russia, she just looked so bereft and not quite well. But she looks terrific. And she's got a new do and new glasses. And I must say, she looks like she's thriving since she got back.
She must have a lot of inner strength to get through that ordeal. She was there for like almost a year, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
By the way,
my idea of a nightmare.
By the way, those Jesus ads that were during the Super Bowl, he gets us. Did you see it at all? You know, they kept running these ads.
I heard about them. Yeah, I heard about them, really targeting kids or from the point of view of kids, and there's millions and millions of dollars.
Right. It's funded by a dark money group called the Signatory that is funded by things like Hobby Lobby and others that also fund the anti-LGBTQ work of Alliance Defending Freedom, the anti-LGBTQ legal group that works against reproductive rights, all part of a white Christian nationalist movement that owns the U.S. Supreme Court at this point. So very sad, but they were selling Jesus with spending millions of dollars on these ads to rope people in. All right, next, let's talk about what's going on at the White House. The
Obama veteran Ben LaBault.
Yeah. President Biden's new communications director is an out gay man, Ben LaBault. He is a former advisor to President Obama, and he's worked for the Biden transition team and on the campaign to confirm Ketanji Brown Jackson to the U.S. Supreme Court. Now, he replaces Kate Bedingfield, who is leaving to work on Biden's reelection campaign. Now, he's the first out gay person in the job, Biden's press secretary, as we all know, is an out lesbian, Karine Jean-Pierre. LeBolt was he was Obama's press secretary for the 2008 campaign. And during that campaign, he said to Obama, I'm gay. And Obama said, "You've got game?" In other words, he misheard
That's
him,
right.
maybe whatever. In the private sector, he has worked for the philanthropies of Mark Zuckerberg's Facebook and Michael Bloomberg, and advised such behemoths as Uber, Google, and Airbnb. So I guess he can afford to take a private sector job. He must have cleaned up on those accounts.
Right.
Okay.
So, Andy, what do we make of this? But I want your analysis on this, because now we've got really this must be the first time in history that we have two key communications roles in the White House, both LGBTQ people. Is it coincidental, or is it strategy?
As people know from watching this program, we're very good at communications. No, I mean, look, I don't know if it's a business that disproportionately attracts LGBTQ people. Obviously not, because these are the first two open ones. But it's certainly not a liability in the Democratic Party. And look, there are people who work for the Republican Party as well. Yeah.
Right.
What do you think?
I think it would be naive to think it's not partly strategic. And I think that there is a certain, the LGBTQ activist movement has had to be so media aware just to have a presence and just to be heard. So I think it's probably just a really smart move from the president. Right.
Okay. Well, some LGBTQ and civil liberties groups don't think the administration, and both parties, by the way, are not making a good move with what's called the Kids Online Safety Act. It's a bipartisan bill meant to protect kids, minors, online. Now, but it leaves the implementation to the states, and the worry is that the Republican-led states will use it to clamp down on content for LGBTQ youth and invade their privacy. So Equality California wants older minors to be able to access gender-affirming care, sexual health, connecting with other LGBTQ youth. And it's supported, of course, by the Heritage Foundation. So there's enough said there. And look, we want children protected, but we don't want LGBTQ youth to be isolated. Yeah.
Right. And wouldn't it be terribly ironic if something like, Spirit Day, which is an online initiative against bullying, got blocked by these filters, by an online safety algorithm. So it's a little disturbing, yes.
I imagine it's already blocked in Florida. But how about what's going on in California? How about Senator Dianne Feinstein, 89, saying she won't run for re-election? Equality California praised her support for LGBTQ rights back to her days as a supervisor alongside Harvey Milk in the late 70s. Now, that's true. She voted for the gay rights bill when she was a supervisor, but then she becomes mayor when Mayor Moscone was killed along with Harvey Milk. And one of the things she did as mayor was veto the domestic partners bill because the Archdiocese Catholic told her to. So she wasn't always been there for us. She's had a good voting record in the Senate, but I guess I would say I'd hardly call her a leader, and I'm glad that she's willing to make room for a new generation of Americans.
I think so. 89, that's a good innings, as we say in Australia.
Is that what they say?
Yeah, it's a cricket term.
Yeah, it's a good age.
Yeah. A good innings. It means you've been in batting for long enough. It's okay if you quit now.
Oh, good. I'll have to see if I can incorporate that. No one will know what I'm talking about. Now, we've mentioned this before, but it's coming up on April 10th, and it's actually, the voting has already started in Wisconsin. They're voting to elect a member of their Supreme Court, and this will change the balance of the court to either conservative or liberal. So critical in Wisconsin. We've got a Republican legislature, Democratic governor, and you need a court to step in sometimes, one way or the other. So that voting is going on right now. And I was very encouraged to hear that there's a lot of infighting going on among the Republicans about who's going to be their nominee. So that could kill their chances.
Right.
Infighting. All right, let's move on to the Santos news of the week.
Oh boy! Finally, people are formalizing to expel this guy. There's a group of them, isn't there, Andy?
Yes, one of the new out gay Democratic Congress members, Robert Garcia of Long Beach, California. We have a picture of him with Mr. Santos. That's Mr. Garcia there on the left, Mr. Santos on the right, appropriately. And he introduced this resolution. He was joined by, we have another picture of the press conference, by the new out Representative Becca Balint of Vermont, out Representative Richie Torres. There's, I think, Dan Goldman, who's not gay that I know of, there in the background. He's been working on this to get Santos out. And, you know, I guess Santos hasn't joined the Equality Caucus, which is not just gay people in the Congress, it's others who support LGBTQ rights. And he, by the way, when Santos was confronted with this resolution, he said, I don't even know who Garcia is. He obviously doesn't pay attention to what's going on in the gay world, you know, other than for his own selfish purpose. Garcia had been the out mayor of Long Beach, while Santos was running phony charities and funding fraudulent financial reports. Garcia tweeted, I'll just read this. When you lie about the Pulse Massacre, 9/11, the Holocaust, your career, and you defraud people and the voters, you don't deserve classified clearance to be in the Congress. And of course, we learned this week he got many donations, far in excess of what he's allowed to get. I mean, what is taking so long with getting rid of this guy? And why are the Republicans?
Exactly. It surprises me that it's taken this long, and that Becca Balint's actually had to get citizens to sign on, to co-sign with her. But at least it's something. I hope it works.
This week, accused of writing $15,000 in bad checks in 2017 to private dog breeders in Amish country in Pennsylvania. He was charged with theft, somehow got the charges dropped by lying to the prosecutors. And the New York Times found $365,000, not small change, in campaign funds that were unaccounted for. But he's getting some competition in the fraud department in Congress, right? Do you want to talk about this woman, or do I need to go back?
Oh, I mean, I know that she's not gay, obviously, but look, she
Anna Paulina Luna.
Yes.
She was
now
elected.
her guilt is that she claims to be Jewish, or claims to have had Jewish heritage, and none of her family even understands what she's talking about.
Well, and she also didn't publicly identify as Latina before this. She used to support Obama. Now she's MAGA. She used to describe herself as Middle Eastern Jewish or Eastern European, but went with Luna for political reasons. She claimed she was a victim of a home invasion that didn't happen. She claimed to have little extended family, but her cousin says, we always include her in family gatherings. And she said her grandma died of AIDS and heroin use, as did her grandma's husband and brothers. And her mom is backing her up on that one. So anyway, it's politics and a lot of lies. And then poor Angie Craig of Minnesota. Well, not exactly poor Angie Craig. She's an out lesbian U.S. Congress member from Minnesota, right? Talk about what happened to her.
Well, I mean, I feel for her because she was coming back to her apartment in DC early in the morning, around 7 a.m., and she noticed a strange man acting oddly in the lobby. She gets into the elevator of her building, and he follows her in. Now, for a woman, this is actually quite terrifying. It is one of my worst fears, that I'm going to be followed home and trapped in a small space where I live. But she is carrying a cup of coffee, and he starts to assault her. It's about 7:15 in the morning, and he's choking her and punching her. So she throws her hot coffee in his face as a way to get away from him. But this is just terrifying. It wasn't politically motivated, apparently. But there is an investigation, and he has been apprehended. 26-year-old man.
Kendrick Hamlin, 26, charged with assault. So yes, but she was quite brave fighting him off. All right, let's go to Florida. I think the big news about DeSantis this week is that he's been labeled by Trump as a groomer of teenage girls when he taught high school and drank with them.
Yeah.
Because
that's that photo. It's an old photo of him with these. I think they've got he's got his arms around these young girls, and somebody's holding a beer. I think he's holding a beer. But Trump posted this picture on Truth Social. I have seen that photo before. And this is why Trump's calling him a groomer. It's another example
groomer is the favorite word of the DeSantis administration. They call everybody a groomer if they don't back them up on banning everything gay. You're a groomer. That's his press secretary says that about, if you don't support the Don't Say Gay bill, you're a groomer. So now he's being called a groomer. This is called hoist on your own petard. Of course, Trump, of course, was for multiple rapes, sexual harassment, and hanging out in the Miss Teen USA pageant, which he owned, in the dressing room with the girls while they were getting ready. But DeSantis did not fire back. He just said he doesn't spend his time attacking other Republicans. Well, hello, that's all Trump does. So it's sort of Godzilla versus King Kong now, and the fight is on. But DeSantis was brushed back a little on some of his big campaigns. He was going to totally punish Disney, right, and take away their status and all that. Well, he does get to appoint a 5-member board to run it, but he's had to back up on the taxes. He's letting them keep all their tax benefits because otherwise the people of Florida would have to pick up all that tax tab. So he's backed up on that stuff. And ultimately, he's not punishing that much. And there was also that thing where he was going to require girls to report their menstrual cycles. Did you read about this?
Yes, that's right. If you said you're a girl, you have to.
Yeah, they're not going to do that now.
Yeah.
I guess that didn't test so well. Anyway.
I mean, it's also it's incredibly unwieldy. It's unpractical. It's really impractical to take away the perks from Disney when they're such a flagship attraction for the whole state of Florida. I mean, you'd have to ask the tourism people what they think of this, but it just seems to me a stupid move. And also I mean, when I used to menstruate, I could barely keep my 28-day cycle in check. So how Ron DeSantis thinks he's going to monitor the menstrual cycles of every woman with a uterus that's operating in the state is really incredible to me.
Right. Anyway, okay. But by the way, they thought they were doing that to go after people who might be having abortions and things like that, and et cetera. All right, in Montana, they've advanced legislation to allow healthcare workers and insurance companies to refrain from participating in cases in which that they morally object to, like abortions or gender-affirming care. And they also held a hearing on banning the teaching of scientific theories in schools. The idiot sponsor of this bill doesn't understand that he says that theories aren't facts, but that's not the way the term is used scientifically. So they're not just after evolution, but cell theory, theory of gravity, valence bond theory. It could go back. It could go by the wayside. This is a state determined to return to the 19th century or something. Keep people poor, stupid, pregnant, and sick. It's awful. I mean, the know-nothingness of it. And let's talk about some of the other states. South Dakota.
Now, let me just, yes.
Well, they banned gender-affirming care for minors, and they join Alabama and Arkansas, which did that in the past. Now, in Alabama and Arkansas, they got court orders saying you can't enforce this, so I don't know what's going to happen in South Dakota. But they have banned gender-affirming care there. And
but can we just to drill down a little bit at what the gender-affirming care, that just means any kind of care. It doesn't mean there's a misconception out there that this is somehow surgery, but this is any kind of care, from counseling to puberty blockers, right?
Right, and Iowa's going further. Going further than DeSantis. The Senate Education Committee recommended a bill banning sexual orientation and gender identity topics through the 8th grade, not through the 3rd grade, through the 8th grade. The sponsor said that these topics should only be taught at home. Teach them at home. Oh, right. My parents gave me great lessons on sexual orientation and gender identity when I was a kid. I didn't talk to my parents about it until I got out of college, and I'd already been president of the Gay Student Union at the University of Virginia. It's kind of cowardly of me to wait, but I did, and that's when I talked to them in 1975, and they were pretty good, very good actually. But anyway, in Iowa, schools will be subject to fines between $10,000 and $50,000 if they violate this. And the Republican governor, Kim Reynolds, spoke at a rally of Moms for Liberty, the right-wing group that is pushing the bill. All right. And if you want to see how just awful these things are, they're having a hearing. They had a hearing in Arkansas, which has already passed a lot of anti-gay bills. This one was to allow a minor receiving any gender transition procedure to later sue the doctor for providing the care. But then we have footage here, hold it a second, of Republican Senator Matt McKee talking to a witness who was transgender.
You said that you're a trans woman.
A trans female, yes, ma'am, sir.
Do you have a penis?
That's horrible.
Yeah. You're the one that brought that into the discussion.
Do you have a penis? This is where you have sunk. It's shocking. Just shocking. Well, we'll get more on penises later when we talk about what's going on.
Not
in LA.
appropriate.
Yeah. It's really frightening. All the filters are down. But can we give them some good news? Michigan?
Yes. Oh, Michigan. You go with Michigan. I'll go with California.
Okay. Michigan, the Senate moved the LGBTQ rights bill out of committee. Don't forget, Democrats took over both houses of the legislature, and they have Governor Gretchen Whitman out there. So this bill covers sexual orientation and gender identity. The Michigan Catholic Conference is trying to amend it with a poison pill expanding religious exemptions, but that appears to be failing at the moment. Okay, California.
Right. Yeah, and California is advancing a bill to repeal the constitutional amendment banning same-sex marriage. They want to enshrine marriage equality in the state's constitution, and that effort comes 15 years after the voter-approved Proposition 8, which we all know about that. It banned the state from recognizing same-sex marriages. Gavin Newsom did issue a statement about this, saying same-sex marriage is the law of the land and Prop 8 has no place in our constitution. It's time that our laws affirm marriage equality regardless of who you are and who you love. And again, this is an example of California hopefully leading the way in terms of the states.
Yeah, my roommate worked on that campaign in 2008, and it was shocking to lose it, but we lost it big back in 2008.
Yeah,
it was the same year that Obama was elected president. We elected a black president, and we banned same-sex marriage in California. Now, all of that was overturned by the courts, but you've got to get it out of the Constitution in case Clarence Thomas and his other friends on the Supreme Court try to reinstate all those things. And other states, you got to get busy on this. They did it in Nevada. They're doing it in other states. And also there was a celebration this week in Hawaii. Can you believe it's been 30 years since the High Court of Hawaii legalized same-sex marriage? It actually didn't go into effect. They just won the case.
That's right.
The state legislature immediately moved to get a constitutional amendment that the legislature could regulate marriage, and if they don't want gay, they don't have to have gay, and that's what they did. But it still was. Right. Now, of course, that breakthrough is what led to the Defense of Marriage Act in 1996. The Congress passing that and basically banning federal recognition and allowing the states not to recognize it. And ultimately, Hawaii didn't even do it. But that was a breakthrough. Dan Foley was the counsel with Evan Wolfson. He's now a judge, Evan Wolfson from Lambda, and they just represented 3 same-sex couples. This was not a big movement thing. This is 3 same-sex couples coming forward and saying, we want to get married. And they got representation and they won for a minute anyway.
It started a process that took too long, but ultimately leaned toward justice, House Speaker Scott Sakey said in a news release. But it's true. It's like you might not get the immediate results, but this is what activism does. You start a process and others can carry it on.
Yes. I was also encouraged by what happened in Ohio with remember we told you about high school, Cardinal High School. They banned a production of William Finn's musical, the 25th annual Putnam County Spelling Bee, because they thought it had vulgarities and gay stuff and things like that. Well, they've reversed themselves.
Right. Yes, yes. The decision came after several weeks.
Yeah,
yes, you had to make some cuts.
Well, these cuts apparently are approved by the author. We don't know exactly what they are. Some of it might have to do with bad words and things. But during the interim, when this thing was banned, Jesse Tyler Ferguson, who was in the original Broadway production, he and all the past members of the cast of 25th Annual Putnam County School, they got on a Zoom call with the kids from Ohio and gave them all the encouragement in the world and support. So that's going to happen. Anyway. Yeah. All right. Missouri. Well, there was this article that this woman, Jamie Reed, a former case manager at a clinic for transgender kids, and she calls herself a queer woman herself. She wrote an article attacking the clinic. And saying, I'm not anti, but well, whatever. She wrote this thing and it's caused a lot of fuss. So the Republican Attorney General has called for a halt to any kind of drug treatments there for trans youth at the Pediatric Care Center in St. Louis. And that fight goes on. This is really rough on these kids.
It's just a pause, though. So it's a pause to give out puberty blockers and hormones to new patients. I don't know what's going to happen with it, though. But there is an investigation pending. But look, it's not a good sign, is it? No. If they can do it, everyone can do it. So,
all right, let's go to some other news in New York. We've been telling you about these people who are being drugged or robbed coming out of gay bars and non-gay clubs as well. So outstate Senator Brad Hoylman Siegel is urging Chase Manhattan Bank to bolster their protections against fraud and reimburse the victims of these robberies. You leave the club, they grab your phone, they put it up to your face, they get facial recognition, they take $5,000 out, and you're recovering what's going on, and it's gone. It's just gone. One of them, I think, lost $25,000. So
I was going to say it being a lot much higher, and you would think that would come up, that would be flagged by the credit card companies as a regular activity, especially at that time of night. So
exactly. I had a friend who was robbed at a store of her credit card, and they immediately went to a high-end store, tried to use her credit card. She never buys high-end stuff, and they blocked it because it wasn't her. The thieves. The senator is also encouraging banks to use 2-factor authentication for large transfers as well. All right. And so you've got to start taking safety things. Turn off your facial ID when you go out and you're drinking. Seriously, turn it off. Obviously, watch your drink. Don't accept a drink that you don't know exactly where. Watch the bartender make your drink. Hey, it's awful, but these are the kinds of things people have to do for their own safety.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Here's a tough story. We've told you about that. Remember that controversy in Los Angeles about the trans woman who went into the spa. This is actually over, I think it's last year. And now is being charged with indecent exposure. And the judges ruled that the trial can go forward. This is in Los Angeles. Now, one witness testified that the sight of this person, Meager's penis was unnerving. One parent said it was erect, and that is the basis on which indecent exposure should go for, but other witnesses said it was not a wreck. So Meager questioned why women in the spa aren't deemed to be indecently exposed when they're naked, and but the accusations versus Meager led to huge protests outside the spa, sometimes marked by violence. So this is a gnarly one.
I mean, look, it's a gnarly one, even if you're a frequent spa goer, because the rules change in different settings. And I always feel you've got to obey the rules of the house if you are using any kind of public facility at all. But I don't think the rules here are clear. I think there's a lot of assumption around what a woman is. And the three witnesses, I think a couple of the girls were even underage. So then it's like, are we talking about women now, or are we talking about girls? Because it seemed to me the concern was there was a person with a penis around girls. So I think everyone has to look at the rules and what they're, because I've been to spas that are unisex. And I've seen men wandering in and out, or people that identify as whatever, wandering in and out. It's all about what you expect when you go to use the facilities.
Exactly. Everybody needs to know the rules.
But this person, you do need to know the rules, I think, just out of a courtesy of sharing a public space. But I think we do need to be clear on the rules. But this person is claiming innocence. They're saying, I was just walking around being comfortable because the other women were being comfortable. So,
right. Well, look, I mean, I'm going to talk about I mentioned the Avedon exhibit, the murals that he did back in 1968. And one of them was of the Andy Warhol factory. And I went there this weekend, and we can't show you the picture on this show, but it's got two gorgeous young gay guys, completely naked. I don't know if they're gay or not. Oh, and Candy Darling also is frontally nude with a penis. Candy Darling, a trans member of the factory. Now, these are murals in a photo exhibit in the Metropolitan Museum. And there's no sign up saying, don't come in if you're a kid or anything. Watch out, it might be triggering. And, obviously people take a good look at those nudes. And I did see a mother taking her child through the exhibit, kind of nervously laughing and shielding her eyes from, this. And of course, it can be triggering for people to pardon the expression, come upon, an unexpected big nude thing. But in an art museum, of course, you see a lot of nudity. I posted a video of it on Facebook, and it was taken down by Facebook. On the other hand, if I'd showed Jesus Christ on the cross who's naked getting crucified, they probably wouldn't have done anything. It's different when it comes to art. Anyway, all right. Staten Island, the St. Patrick's Day parade out there is the holdout and is keeping LGBTQ groups out. They're still doing it. They came in to apply again, the gay groups, and the guy said, "You run a homosexual organization, get out." We're allowed in the Fifth Avenue parade. We have been for 5 years. I'll be there on March 17th. And of course, we've got the St. Pat's for All in Queens in March the 5th. By the way, as I've said on the show, Danny Drum, the out gay former council member, he's now the chief financial officer of the Fifth Avenue St. Patrick's Day Parade, which we were kept out of for 25 years. Right. And Reclaim Pride is coming up. Of course, it's in June.
Yay.
This is our colleague, Ann Northrup, who will be back in a couple of weeks. They're having a community town hall Saturday, February 25th from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. at the LGBT Community Center. Virtual attendance is possible. So you can, through Reclaim Pride Coalition's social media and YouTube channels, go to reclaimpridenyc.org and help plan the 2023 Queer Liberation March, which is a lot of fun.
And might have just add as a lot of fun, but important this year. This year, it's not just about we don't like the corporatization of pride or anything like that. This year, it's about addressing the continued attacks on our bodily autonomy, on our healthcare access, on legal protections and freedom of expression. And this can all be bundled into a very purposeful Pride March this year that is not corporate. So please do attend, and please do consider attending.
It's very intersectional, something that is not allowed in Florida. They're probably going to start taking traffic lights out of intersections because they don't like intersectionality. I mean, it's gotten quite absurd. All right. By the way, we're going to talk about some people we lost before we get to the ones who passed away this week. My obituary on Dr. Charles Silverstein is now up at gaycitynews.com, and I will link to that in our email. And if you want to be on our email list, go to gayusatv.org and you can sign up. But there's also this article by Dr. Silverstein that he wrote about when he was 30 years old and a graduate student, getting us out of the index of mental disorders from the American Psychiatric Association. It's a very well-written piece, and I highly recommend it, and that will be shared with you. But tell us about Howard Bragman, Merryn.
Well, Howard Bragman, interestingly, I had a little bit of interaction with him when I was working at Curve Magazine. He was one of the really high-level publicists and crisis management folks who was just so wonderful to deal with. He always was so polite, so kind, and he had such a good energy. And we did at Curve Magazine work with Howard and Shelley Wright on her coming out. And he understood. What's that?
She's the country singer, Shelley Wright.
Think,
yeah.
Yeah, Shelley Wright's a country singer, and that was also very, very, very touchy for her to come out because most of her fans are not gay. So this was very delicate, and he knew it had to be handled delicately because it also involved her mental health, her career, and he was just the guy to do it. He was such a mensch, and his death is a real shock to me.
Yeah.
We didn't have any warning. I certainly didn't hear anything about it. I didn't even know he was ill, but he's definitely, as somebody who's worked in the media for 25 years, somebody like Howard Bragman is a real loss, I think.
Well, he was only 66. I say that because I'm 69. And he was only diagnosed with leukemia 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago. So this was as sudden to him as it was to the rest of us. Now, he advised several celebrities on their coming out besides Shelley Wright, Meredith Baxter, NFL player Michael Sam, WNBA Cheryl Swopes, golfer Rosie Jones, former NFL player Isera Tualo. But he also represented Sharon Osbourne, Monica Lewinsky, Stevie Wonder, Chaz Bono, among many, many others.
And Chaz was really important. Chaz is really one of the first transgender celebrities. And again, that took a lot of expert handling and storytelling because nobody had really seen a trans man before. Right. So I loved Howard because he understood the power of media to tell people's stories in a relatable way. So yes, such a loss.
And his family is going to establish a coming out fund in his name because coming out was his big thing. For you and for everybody else. And it's going to be at the University of Michigan, which I believe is his alma mater. All right. And then in Brooklyn, a 19-year-old gay man was found shot to death with significant burns on February 17th. DeAndre Matthews. The family believes he may have been the victim of a hate crime. He was last seen by his mother on February 6th, leaving for his job, took her, using her car. And whoever did this to him also set fire to the car at a separate location. He had 2 jobs. He was the car was found ablaze. He was found on freight tracks. It's an awful story. And as mom said, her son came out several years ago, but no suspects have been arrested. And then some justice.
I find it very what? Oh, I'm just thinking they're going to find they're going to have to find a suspect because this young man was active online, and I have no doubt that there'll be a digital trail, hopefully, leading to the suspect. But it was heartbreaking to hear the mother so upset because not knowing what's happened to her son is just.
She loved her son, and when you've got a mother seeking justice, you get it more often than not. In Louisiana, a 19-year-old, Chance Seneca, we told you about the story, inspired by Jeffrey Dahmer, and he lured a gay man who was 18 years old to his home to kill and eat him, but he ended up leaving the guy in a coma for 3 days. But then he called the police and said, "I killed somebody." and he lured him using Grindr. The victim, by the name of White, Holden White, survived his injuries, but they were very severe. And Seneca has been sentenced to 45 years in a federal prison for kidnapping and attempted murder. Horrible story.
I mean, mind-boggling. I wonder what.
Merryn, take us to Australia.
Oh, we're going to Australia, international news. So there's two Australian stories, isn't there? I should jump on both of them at once. Well, first of all,
Prime Minister is up to Anthony Albanese.
Yeah, I will. Anthony Albanese, he is a very long-serving politician, left-leaning. He has finally, he kind of is the guy that we used to pass over and never vote in. Well, now we voted him in, and he is actually our leader. And he's really doing some great stuff down in Australia, especially for Indigenous people and the LGBTQ community. As you might know, Sydney is hosting World Pride this year, and it is bundling that huge spectacle in with the annual Gay and Lesbian Mardi Gras in Sydney, and Anthony will be the first sitting Prime Minister to march in the parade ever.
Now, Malcolm Turnbull went to the event, and he was conservative, right? But he didn't.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he was very much in the Bloomberg mold. You know, he was that kind of guy, a bit of a silver tail, moderate, but not left. And he was part of it, but didn't march. And Albanese will be actually marching. He's a real kind of do it kind of guy, which is good to see. We have another Aussie story as well.
Hold it before you leave him. He's going to be joined by Penny Wong, his foreign affairs minister, who's the first out lesbian in Parliament. Is that possible? First out lesbian in Parliament?
I think so. Yeah.
And Albanese paid tribute to the protesters who marched for gay rights in 1978, many of whom were arrested at the first Sydney parade, which was dispersed by the police. And he also urged our communities to support the campaign to change the Constitution to give Indigenous people a voice in the Parliament.
Exactly. And that 78, we call them the 78ers. They're our Stonewall, our version of Stonewall, because back in the day in Australia, everything in Australia happened about 10 years after the US had it. So, you know, you had Stonewall in the late 60s. We had ours in the late 70s. So.
Okay. And then the other Australian story, maybe I should do this. The out gay Aussie Olympic gold medalist in 2008, Matthew Mitchum. There he is with his husband, who's an adult film star, Luke Rutherford. He won the gold medal in 2008. He's joined OnlyFans with his that platform. His husband is Mr. Male Massage on that thing. Matthew just celebrated 7 years of sobriety. It says he's the happiest and healthiest he's ever been. He volunteered with a group called Controlling Chemsex, supporting people who use drugs to enhance sex. And on OnlyFans, he said he won't be performing any sex acts, but he will be showing more than he would normally on social media. Matthew Mitchell.
Yeah, I feel for him because he was such a poster boy. He was very historic in his achievements, but he had this massive high from winning, and he fell into drug and alcohol abuse because he couldn't cope with the come down after the Olympics were all over and the winning was over. He fell into that trap, and I feel very lucky sometimes that he survived, because it looked like he mightn't at a time then. So anyway, he's come out the other side now, and
it looks as if he stayed in shape all these years. He stayed in shape.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. The Church of England is exploring gender-neutral language to refer to their God instead of he or our Father. The church did vote to let priests bless same-sex marriages and civil partnerships while continuing to ban church weddings for same-sex couples. The vote included an apology for the church's failure to welcome LGBTQ people. It also endorsed the doctrine that marriage is between a man and a woman. Gay rights campaigner and member of the Synod, Jane Ozane, called the semi-measure an insult. In Hungary, The High Court has now blocked new applications from transgender people for legal gender recognition. You can't even change. In 2020, the parliament passed a law banning trans or intersex people from legally changing their genders. In 2021, the court ruled it does not apply retroactively, but applications after the law were enacted can now be rejected. The Hungarian LGBT group is appealing to the European Court of Human Rights. You know, Hungary wants to be part of Europe, but they keep doing all these right-wing things.
Yep.
All right.
Not going to happen.
Sri Lanka, the government said it supports a bill decriminalizing same-sex relations. They emphasized, we're not legalizing same-sex marriage, but we're not going to lock you up for doing the deed. That's what they're looking towards there.
Yeah.
And tell us about the Czech soccer star, please.
Yes, Czech soccer star Jakub Jankto has come out. He's the Czech Republic's midfielder, and he did it on social media. He posted a video on Monday saying he's gay. It's Twitter, I believe. And he is now in a very elite group of high-profile male soccer players that have come out. The video had him saying, I'm homosexual and I no longer want to hide myself like everyone else. I want to live my life with freedom, without fear, without violence, without prejudices, but with love. And Sparta Prague's official Twitter account has come out in support. And he says, you have our support. Live your life, Jakub, the club added. So well done.
So, yeah, I mean, it's considered quite a breakthrough. They're saying he's the first active international men's player to announce that he is gay. There have been others in the past, but like Josh Cavolo in Australia. And
yes.
But he's gotten a lot of support from his past teams, from the European governing body, the union. Everybody says, good on ya. All right. All right. Shall we move to AIDS news?
Yes.
It's very sad news from Oceana, California. The co-producers of the ACT UP LA Oral History Project, a couple, Mary Lucy and Nancy McNeil, died within hours of each other of health-related causes on February 11th. These women joined ACT UP LA in 1990 to draw attention to the plight of women with AIDS in prison. They worked with the Women's Caucus. Their activism led to the first compassionate release of an inmate with AIDS, Judy Cagle. McNeil was active in the Lavender Left in the 1980s. Nancy was the founding executive director of Women Alive, an organization of 500 HIV-positive women. She was the first executive director of the National Women's AIDS Hotline. Mary was an out and proud lesbian and among the first HIV-positive women to be out about their status in LA. Together, they fought to expand the CDC's definition of AIDS to include women's opportunistic infections. In 1994, Lucy worked as the first city AIDS coordinator and got needle exchange in LA. And even unto death, Lucy said, where is our vaccine? Where is our cure? And why on earth are people still getting infected? So they were groundbreakers in so many ways, and they went within hours of each other. A very wonderful activist couple.
Yes.
Okay. Shall we? We've got about 10 minutes left. What about some entertainment news? You read something. Talk about Planet Sex.
Oh yes, there's now I haven't seen it yet myself, but I've seen parts of it. But it is a series on Hulu, and it's kind of like a global investigation of all different ideas of gender expression and identification and sexual orientation. And it's hosted by Cara Delevingne, who is the British, I think we can call her a supermodel / actress / at some point it girl. And we in the media have been watching Cara over the years because she quite, bravely came out in 2015. I think that was part of being involved with the pop star St. Vincent. And she's always said, before it became truly fashionable, that she was gender fluid and queer. And she also claimed that Harvey Weinstein sexually harassed her and offered, he wanted a threesome with somebody else in exchange for giving her a role in movies and all of this stuff. So she's been one to watch, but the tabloids have been covering her recently as being troubled and possibly having some kind of mental health issue or substance abuse issue. So I was very happy to see that she gave an exclusive interview with Variety talking about LGBTQ activism and the community. And she said some good things, Andy, that I think go beyond the usual celebrity lip service that we often hear. Yeah, but she says that being well, yes, she said that she felt a lot of shame around her queerness when she came out, and she looked to the LGBT community as a home and as a safe space, which I think is terrific. She says that any person who's queer has gone through a period of shame, or at least not understanding who they are and feeling like they don't belong. That's something I've always felt. Doing the show Planet Sex has opened her up to a lot of thoughts. So she says, while I was always queer, I lived a very straight lifestyle. I wasn't being part of the community as much as I wanted to be. Advocating is one thing, but being a part of the community and enjoying and celebrating your own queerness is different. I feel like I did that for the first time, and it was amazing. So that's wonderful. And I just think that it's nice to feel that we're still relevant as a place for people who are growing and coming out, even if they are, high-flying celebrities who can kind of live this double life. So, yeah.
Congratulations. I'll have to check out Planet Sex on Hulu. Do you follow the Brit Awards? I don't particularly, but did you read what happened this week?
I did. I had a quick look. I noticed that they do have a category. I noticed that a lot of straight people have been nominated. I saw that Rod Stewart is been nominated, and Harry Styles. I don't know, though, where Harry Styles is on the spectrum, but it seems to me that the organizers have said this year they really do want to throw a bone to straight allies for helping our community and standing by us in a difficult time.
The news is they went gender neutral on the categories. We've mentioned this on the show. Anne has qualms about it and has expressed them. They've dumped the male and the female categories, acknowledging that artists such as Sam Smith are non-binary. Where are we going to put them? So this year's short list of artists for Artist of the Year were all men, only men, and Harry Styles won. Along with, we also won 3 other awards, including Album of the Year. Now, Raina Soeyama, who was nominated for Best New Artist, said, the conversation on gender always has to be progressive, but she thinks, and it's good to be gender neutral, but she said it's a bad decision to reduce the number of nominees. In other words, when you had men and women, you had 10 nominees. Now you've got 5 nominees in one gender neutral category. So she says the solution is more nominees, and that would solve the problem, she thinks.
I don't know. I mean, we have the same problem in Australia with the Sydney Theatre Awards that went gender neutral for the first time ever. And again, we had for me, the problem is a lack of category. I actually think you need more categories, and they don't have to be based around gender. I think we can think laterally, because the thing is, if you're going to be handing out awards for anything, to just say that there's one best ever is very monotheistic to me. It's very monolithic. And it would seem to me that the whole point of this evolution of our culture is to stop monolithic anythings, to stop crowning something as godlike and best, So why not actually, instead of having, if you're going to break the binary, then really have a plurality, have more categories is what I would be doing. Because one year you're going to have just men win, or just women win, or just non-binary people win. And every other kind of shade will have been pushed to the side. I think it's really we're not quite there yet.
Well, obviously, most of the shows, they nominate 5 people in each category, and you look at all their faces, and 4 of them lose, and 1 of them wins, and this is what people watch. But it's been condemned by George Santos and others who say it's a cattle show. Artists shouldn't compete against each other. There are award shows where they just hand out awards to people who gave great performances this year. But again, who decides that? And there's no nominees. They just hand out awards for great performances of the year, and they honor them. Would people tune into a show like that? I don't know. Do people like watching people lose? Is that why people watch these award shows? I have to vote for the SAG Awards, for the SAG Awards, and it's tough to pick.
Look, to me, it's all like the Hunger Games. I think we absolutely do enjoy people losing, and this is where the form was invented. The form was invented in the Roman Colosseum. It's kind of like, there is some kind of suffering involved. So I think we need to basically rethink the paradigm is what we have to do.
All right. We have 2.5 minutes left. I want to go out, unless you have something else, recommending a couple of art shows. They're in New York. I apologize, but if you get to town, you have until October 1st to get to the Met Museum and see the extraordinary photographic murals of Richard Avedon from 1968. There's one of the Andy Warhol factory. I can't show you the second half of this mural. These are huge murals. There's Andy and Joe D'Alessandro and others. Right across from that are the architects of the Vietnam War in 1968. These are the people who worked for the United States in South Vietnam, destroying that country. And so there's that. And then there's the third one is the Chicago 7. These are, Jerry Rubin, Tom Hayden, all those cats. They didn't have much to do with each other until they all got arrested at the Chicago Democratic National Convention, and there they are as well. These are most impressive works of art, and there are other pictures there of Avedon himself, of Marian Anderson, of others. So do check that. It's not a huge show, but it's an impressive one at the Met Museum. And then at the Clamp Gallery in New York, which is at 247 West 29th Street, 3 contemporary gay artists, Zachary Logan. Well, this one is by Eric Rhine. They're all gay. Eric Rhine, Zachary Logan, and Adam Liam Rose. That's just a gallery show. These things are on display until I believe it's March the 4th. They're open Tuesday through Saturday, 10 to 6, down to the last 30 seconds. And Lehman College in the Bronx has opened an exhibit called Queer Love at their art gallery through April 28th. This one is a lesbian-themed one, and it's opening at La Mama at galleries in the East Village on February 18th, and that'll be through April 6th. So the art world is openly embracing, and we are out of time.